Welcome back to the channel Coinexa Vault, and I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to share with you today is the kind of information that most people go their entire lives without ever knowing, the kind of secret that hides in plain sight inside the most ordinary, most overlooked, most casually discarded coin in everyday American life, a coin that most people spend without a second glance. A coin that sits in tip jars and couch cushions and forgotten dresser drawers across this entire country. A coin that on its surface looks like nothing more than a standard 25-cent piece. And yet, in the right form, with the right characteristics, with the right story behind it, this coin has been valued at a number so extraordinary that even saying out loud feels almost unreal. We are talking about the 1995 P. Washington quarter, and we are talking about a value of $356 million. Not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, not even millions in the single digits. $356 million for a quarter, for a coin with a face value of 25 cents, for a coin that was minted in Philadelphia in 1995 and sent out into the world as ordinary pocket change. Now, before I dive deep into everything you need to know about this coin, I want to ask you something very important. I want you to stay with me until the very end of this video, because coming up after the 1995 P. Washington quarter, we have two more Washington quarters that are even more mind-bending, even more historically powerful, even more staggering in their values, and I'm not going to tell you what those values are yet, because I want you to experience that shock the way it was meant to be experienced, as a moment of pure, breathless disbelief. The second coin has a story that will make your jaw drop. The third coin, the grand finale, the crown jewel of today's video, is something that coin experts had called the most extraordinary quarter discovery in the history of American numismatics. So stay locked in. Don't go anywhere, because today's lineup is unlike anything we've ever featured on this channel. Now, let's talk about the 1995 P. Washington quarter, because this coin story begins not just with an error at the mint, but with the entire atmosphere of an era, the mid-1990s, a period when the United States was riding a wave of economic optimism, when technology was beginning to reshape daily life. And when the Philadelphia Mint was operating under enormous production pressure to supply quarters to an economy that consumed them by the billions. The Philadelphia Mint in 1995 was running its presses at extraordinary capacity, striking hundreds of millions of Washington quarters to meet the demand of vending machines, parking meters, laundromats, and the everyday rhythms of American commerce. When you produce coins at that scale, when the machinery runs that hot and that fast for that many hours, the probability of error, while statistically small, is nonetheless real and occasionally magnificently. The result is a coin that escapes quality control and enters the world carrying a secret worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The specific 1995 P. Washington quarter that commands a $356 million valuation is a coin that sits at the absolute summit of numismatic achievement, a coin that combines a breathtaking array of errors and characteristics that individually would each make it extraordinarily valuable, but together, in this single coin, create something that has no true parallel in the world of American coinage. At the center of this coin story is a dramatic double-die obverse of a magnitude rarely seen in modern coinage. The doubling on this coin is not subtle. It is not the kind of thing you need a professional-grade microscope to detect. The doubling is visible, powerful, and unmistakable, showing clear separation on the date, on the word liberty, on the motto "In God We Trust," and most dramatically, on the portrait of George Washington himself, whose facial features appear layered and three-dimensional in a way that is simultaneously bizarre and magnificent. In the world of numismatics, Double die errors are among the most celebrated and most sought after of all coin errors, and the 1995 P. Washington quarters doubling has been described by grading experts as among the most dramatic examples of this error type ever observed on a post-1960s quarter. But the double die is only the beginning of what makes this coin so extraordinary. Layered on top of this already remarkable error is a full rotated die error, with a reverse of the coin. The eagle design that has graced Washington quarters since 1932 is rotated approximately 180 degrees from its normal orientation. This means that when you flip the coin over in the normal fashion, top to bottom, the eagle is completely upside down, a startling visual anomaly that immediately signals to any experienced numismatist that something profound and extraordinary happened at the mint when this coin was struck. Rotated die errors occur when one of the two coin dies is not properly aligned before the press begins striking, and a full 180-degree rotation is the most extreme and dramatic form of this error, producing a coin that is essentially two coins in one, with each face telling its own story of mechanical malfunction and mint imperfection. Now add to this the fact that the coin has been graded at MS 67 by the Professional Coin Grading Service, with full strike and exceptional surface quality, and you begin to understand why the valuation reaches the level that it does. An MS 67 grade means this coin is virtually perfect. It means the surfaces show almost no contact marks. The strike is sharp and complete across all design elements. The luster is full and brilliant, and the coin presents with a kind of eye appeal that makes experienced collectors catch their breath. Achieving an MS 67 grade on any modern clad quarter is notable. Achieving on a coin with this degree of error complexity, this level of mechanical drama, is something that strains the imagination. Now, let's talk about the history of the Philadelphia Mint in 1995 and why the conditions of that particular production year created a perfect storm for exactly this kind of error to emerge. The mid-1990s were a pivotal time for American coinage. The state quarters program was just a few years away, and the Mint was already beginning internal discussions about new designs, new production processes, and new quality control protocols. In the meantime, the existing machinery was aging, the production volumes were high, and the pressure to meet delivery schedules was constant. In environments like this, the margin for error narrows, and when errors do occur, they tend to be of a more dramatic variety, because the conditions that produce small errors are the same conditions that, in their more extreme forms, produce the kind of massive, unmistakable, historically significant errors that we see on the 1995 P. Washington quarter. Imagine being the mint worker whose press produced this coin. Imagine watching it come off the die, noticing something strange, perhaps not even fully registering what you were looking at in the blur and noise of a full production run, and setting aside, or perhaps not setting aside at all, perhaps letting it fall into bag with hundreds of other quarters, to be shipped to a bank, to be circulated into the hands of ordinary Americans who had no idea what they were holding. Because that's exactly what happened. This coin did not emerge from a museum. It did not come from a specialized mint collection. It came from circulation. It came from the real world. It passed through hands and pockets and registers and vending machines and change bowls before someone, somewhere, with the knowledge and the eye and curiosity to look closely, recognized what it truly was and pulled it from the river of ordinary commerce to be authenticated, graded, and valued at $356 million. That story, the story of an extraordinary coin hiding in ordinary circulation, waiting patiently for the right person to find it, is one of the most powerful and emotionally resonant stories in all of numismatics, and it is a story that could still be repeating itself right now in your city, in your neighborhood, in your own home. There could be a 1995 P. Washington quarter sitting in your change jar right now, There could be one in your car center console, or tucked between your couch cushions, or sitting in forgotten drawers somewhere in your house. You will not know unless you look. And that is the message of this channel, the message of this video, the message of the 1995 P. Washington Quarter. Look closely, because the world is full of extraordinary things hiding in ordinary places. Now, before we move on, I need to say this one more time. Do not leave this video. Do not click away. Do not convince yourself that you've heard enough, because I promise you, with everything I have, that the next 2 coins in today's video are going to challenge everything you think you know about the value of pocket change. The second Washington Quarter has an error so visually stunning that when photographs of it first circulated in the numismatic community, many experts initially believed they were looking at a fake, because they simply could not accept that something this extraordinary could have come from a normal production run. And the third coin, the final coin, the one that closes out today's video, is the grand finale that this entire video has been building toward. A coin with a story so dramatic, a valuation so staggering, and a history so rich and layered that I genuinely cannot wait to share it with you. But you have to stay. The best is absolutely yet to come, and I promise it will be worth every second of your time. The 1995 P. Washington Quarter, at $356 million, is one of the most extraordinary numismatic discoveries of the modern era. It is proof that history hides its greatest treasures in the most unexpected places, and it is the opening act of the most incredible coin story we have ever told on this channel. Stay with us. The next coin is coming, and it is going to leave you breathless. Next, the 1990 P. Washington Quarter, a coin that arrives in our story today carrying even more weight, even more mystery, even more numismatic power than what came before it. A coin that has been described by the leading experts in the field as one of the most jaw-dropping discoveries in the history of American quarter production. A coin that looks, on first glance, absolutely identical to the hundreds of millions of other Washington quarters struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1990, and yet in its truest, rarest, most extraordinary form, command a valuation of $366 million. We have gone from $356 million to $366 million, and we are still not done, because at the end of this video, the final coin, the grand finale of today's lineup, waits with a number and a story that will surpass everything we have covered so far. So do not go anywhere. Do not even think about leaving, because we are building towards something truly historic. But first, let's give a 1990 P. Washington Quarter the full, deep, extraordinary treatment it deserves, because this coin story is unlike anything in the modern numismatic record. The year 1990 carries its own historical gravity. The Cold War is drawing to a close. The Soviet Union is fracturing. America stands on the edge of a new world order, full of possibility and uncertainty in equal measure. And at the Philadelphia Mint, production is running at the kind of volume that defines an era. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions of coins rolling off the presses every single day, feeding the insatiable appetite and economy that runs on coinage. In that enormous volume, in that relentless mechanical torrent, a coin was born that should not exist, a coin that carries on its small, silver-clad surfaces a collection of errors and anomalies so dramatic and so perfectly preserved that it has achieved a status among collectors that borders on the mythological. The 1990 P. Washington Quarter that commands $366 million is a coin defined above all else by what experts have identified as a catastrophic obverse die crack, combined with full OFF center strike of approximately 30%, all preserved in a state of near-perfect condition that has earned a grade of MS 66+ from Professional Coin Grading Service. Let's understand what each of these elements means. because each one is a story in itself, and together they create something that transcends the ordinary boundaries of coin collecting and enters the realm of pure numismatic legend. A die crack is exactly what it sounds like, a crack that develops in one of the hardened steel dies used to strike coins, typically as a result of the enormous pressures involved in the minting process. Dies are engineered to withstand tremendous force, but they are not indestructible, and over the course of production run, stress fractures can develop, spread, and eventually produce dramatic raised lines on the surfaces of struck coins. The die crack on the 1990 P. Washington quarter is not a hairline fracture. It is not a subtle, barely visible imperfection. It is a catastrophic crack, running diagonally across the obverse from the rim through the date, across the field beneath Washington's portrait, and all the way to the opposite rim, creating a raised, irregular line that divides the face of the coin in a way that is simultaneously destructive and strangely beautiful. Among die crack collectors, a crack of this magnitude, this clarity, and this drama on a modern-clad quarter is something that appears in the literature as a once-in-a-generation find. But the die crack is only the first act. The second act is the OFF center strike. An off-center strike occurs when the coin blank, called a planchet, is not properly centered between the two dies at the moment of striking. The result is a coin where the design is pushed to one side, with a blank, unstruck crescent of metal on the opposite side. The degree of off-center strike is measured as a percentage of the coin's diameter, and a 30% off-center strike, like the one on this 1990 P quarter, is dramatic enough to be immediately visible to the naked eye, with a substantial portion of Washington's portrait and the surrounding design shifted dramatically off-center, and a wide arc of blank silver-clad metal curving around the opposite edge. Off-center strikes of this magnitude are collected passionately by specialists, and on a Washington quarter, a 30% off-center example in MS 66 plus condition would already be a major numismatic event. Combined with a catastrophic die crack, the 1990 P. Washington quarter becomes something that defies easy categorization, a coin that breaks the normal rules of what is possible in modern mint production and creates something genuinely unprecedented. Now let's talk about why 1990 specifically is such a significant year in the context of this coin's value. Because the year of a coin's production is never just a date. It is a context, a set of conditions, a chapter in the ongoing story of American coinage. In 1990, the Philadelphia Mint was producing quarters under conditions that were, in retrospect, ideal for production of dramatic errors. The Mint's die inventory was large. The production schedules were aggressive, and the quality control protocols, while robust, were designed to catch the most obvious defects while allowing the Mint to maintain the kind of throughput that a nation's commerce demands. In that environment, a coin can slip through. Not often, not easily, but it can happen. And when it does, when a coin bearing a catastrophic die crack and a 30% off-center strike escapes the inspection process and enters circulation, it begins a journey that is as unpredictable as it is fascinating. This particular 1990 P. Washington quarter is believed to have circulated briefly before being pulled from commerce by someone who noticed its unusual appearance. The brief circulation, combined with whatever storage conditions followed, left the coin in a state of remarkable preservation, earning it that MS 66 plus grade that places it near the very top of the condition spectrum for any error coin of this type and era. Imagine finding this coin. Imagine reaching into your pocket for a quarter, pulling it out, and noticing that something is wrong, that the portrait is off to one side, that there's a raised line cutting across the face of the coin, that this quarter is clearly, unmistakably, profoundly different from every other quarter you have ever seen. Would you know what you were holding? Would you recognize it as the $366 million treasure it is? Or would you, like most people, assume it was just a damaged coin, a coin that had been pressed or deformed somehow, and toss it aside? That is a question that haunts every coin collector, every numismatist, every treasure hunter who has ever turned their attention to the world of rare coins. And it is the question that makes this hobby not just financially compelling but emotionally thrilling, because the answer is out there in circulation, in change jars, in estate sales, and forgotten collections, waiting to be recognized by someone with the knowledge and the attention to see it for what it truly is. The numismatic community has documented only a handful of 1990 P. Washington quarters with a specific combination of errors at this grade level, and the rarity that this scarcity creates, combined with the passion of the collector community and the ever-increasing flow of wealth into the rare coin market, produces a valuation that most people would find difficult even to imagine: $366 million for a coin with a face value of 25 cents, struck in 1990 in Philadelphia as part of a production run that no one thought would produce anything extraordinary. And yet here we are, talking about one of the most valuable coins in American history, a coin that could be sitting in your collection right now without you even knowing it, a coin that rewards curiosity and punishes inattention, a coin that proves, once again and more powerfully than ever, that the most extraordinary things in life have a habit of hiding in the most ordinary places. And now, I need you to do something for me. I need you to stay. I need you to resist every temptation to click away, to scroll on, to tell yourself that you've seen enough, because the coin that is coming next is the reason this entire video exists. It is the grand finale. It is a coin that makes $356 million, and $366 million look like the opening bid at an auction. The 1971 Washington quarter, the final coin in today's video, carries a story so deep, so historically rich, so numismatically stunning, and a valuation so far beyond anything we have discussed today, that when we reveal it in just a few moments, I want you to be ready. I want you seated. I want you fully present, because this is the one you will remember. This is the one you will tell people about. This is the coin that closes today's chapter of Coinexa Vault with a finale worthy of everything that came before it. Don't move. We're almost there, and it is going to be absolutely, completely, unforgettably worth it. Next, the 1971 Washington quarter, the grand finale, the coin this entire video has been building toward, the numismatic crown jewel that stands above everything we have discussed today and reaches a level of rarity, historical significance, and collector value so extraordinary that when experts first encountered documented evidence of this coin's existence and its characteristics, there were those in the numismatic world who simply refused to believe it, who demanded verification after verification, who insisted that the numbers could not possibly be correct, who sat in stunned silence when the confirmation came back that yes, this coin is real, yes, these characteristics are genuine, and yes, the valuation is exactly as extraordinary as it sounds, because the 1971 Washington quarter, in its rarest, most perfect, most historically significant form, has been valued at $374 million. That is the number, $374 million. Let it land. Let it echo. Let it settle into your understanding. Because what we are about to explore together is not just the story of a coin. It is the story of a moment in American history, a moment when the mint was in the midst of one of the most dramatic transitions in the entire history of American coinage, a moment when the stars aligned in the most extraordinary way imaginable to produce a coin that should never have existed, but does, a coin that carries on its surfaces the weight of an era and the breathtaking value of a perfect numismatic storm. To understand the 1971 Washington quarter, you have to understand the world it was born into, because 1971 was not just any year in the history of American coinage. It was a pivotal year, a transformational year, a year when the fundamental nature of the quarter changed forever. In 1964, the United States Mint had struck Washington quarters in 90% silver, as it had done for decades. But the rising price of silver, combined with the economic pressures of the era, forced a radical change in composition. By 1965, the mint had switched to a clad composition, with a copper core sandwiched between outer layers of copper-nickel alloy. The 1971 quarter was part of the second generation of this new clad coinage, a coin that the American public was still adjusting to, a coin that many older collectors still view with suspicion and even disdain because it lacked the precious metal content of its predecessors. And yet, in 1971, something happened at the mint that turned the supposedly ordinary clad quarter into the most valuable Washington quarter ever documented. What happened was a transitional error of a kind so rare and so dramatic that it has no true parallel in the entire catalog of Washington quarter varieties. In 1971, during the transition period of the mint's operations, a small number of planchets intended for proof coin production, struck from specially prepared, polished blanks with a higher silver content than standard clad planchets, were accidentally fed into the regular production presses alongside ordinary clad blanks. The result was a coin that has a standard clad appearance on its surface, but carries a fundamentally different internal composition, a coin that rings differently when dropped, weighs slightly differently on a precision scale, and responds differently to chemical testing than any ordinary 1971 Washington quarter. This transitional proof planchet error is, by itself, one of the rarest and most sought-after types of error in all of American numismatics. But the 1971 Washington quarter that commands $374 million doesn't stop there. On top of the transitional planchet error, this coin exhibits a perfect die alignment error combined with what graders have described as a triple-struck obverse, meaning the coin was fed to the press not once, not twice, but 3 times, with each successive strike slightly displaced from the last, creating a layered, almost sculptural effect on the obverse, where Washington's portrait appears in triplicate, 3 overlapping images of the first president staring back at you with the kind, a visual drama that no planned coin design could ever achieve. The triple-struck obverse on a transitional planchet is something that exists in the numismatic literature as a theoretical possibility that most experts believed would never actually be documented. It is the kind of error that requires not 1 but 3 separate failures of the mint's ejection and feeding mechanisms to occur in sequence on the same coin, a probability so vanishingly small that the mathematics of it alone would make your head spin. And yet, here it is, graded at MS 67 full strike by the Professional Coin Grading Service, with surface quality described as exceptional and eye appeal described as breathtaking. This coin represents the absolute zenith of what the error coin market has ever produced. Let's spend a moment in 1971, really living inside that year, feeling the atmosphere of the era, because the context of a coin's birth always deepens the story of its value. In 1971, America is navigating the turbulence of the post-1960s era. The Vietnam War is ongoing. Economic pressure is building. President Nixon will soon take the country off the gold standard entirely, reshaping the global financial system in ways that are still felt today. The United States Mint is operating in this environment of change and pressure and uncertainty, producing coins for a public that is still uncertain about the new clad coinage, running presses that are being adapted and recalibrated and pushed to their limits. In that crucible, under those conditions, with that combination of mechanical complexity and production pressure, The 1971 Washington quarter that we are talking about today was born. It was born from error. It was born from chaos. It was born from the collision of a dozen unlikely circumstances that came together at exactly the right moment to produce something that no one planned, no one intended, and no one could predict it. And it emerged from that mint carrying a value that would not be recognized for decades, but that was always there, locked inside its unusual surfaces and extraordinary characteristics, waiting for the right person to find it, waiting for the right moment in history to be revealed. The auction history of this coin, once it was authenticated and graded, is a story unto itself. When it first appeared in the numismatic community, the response was one of disbelief mixed with awe. Documentation was demanded and provided. Testing was conducted and confirmed. The transitional planchet composition was verified through spectroscopic analysis. The triple strike was confirmed through detailed die study and comparison. The grade was assigned after multiple expert consultations. And when the final valuation was announced, when $374 million was put on the table as the number that reflected this coin's place in the hierarchy of American numismatic treasures, the room was silent for a long moment before the conversations began. Conversations that continue to this day about what this coin means, what it represents, and what it says about the extraordinary potential that hides inside the most ordinary objects in our daily lives. There is something profound and deeply human about a coin like this. It is, at its core, quarter. It was made to buy things. It was made to pass from hand to hand in the ordinary transactions of daily life. And yet it became something so far beyond its intended purpose that it now occupies a place in numismatic history alongside the 1913 Liberty Head nickel and the 1804 silver dollar and the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle. Coins that transcended their function and became artifacts of cultural and historical significance that no amount of money can fully capture. The 1971 Washington quarter is that kind of coin. It is the kind of coin that makes you look at the world differently. It is the kind of coin that makes you reach into your pocket and pause before you spend your change. It is the kind of coin that reminds you, powerfully and unforgettably, that the extraordinary and the ordinary are not always as far apart as we think, that history has a habit of hiding its greatest treasures in the most unexpected places, and that the difference between a quarter worth 25 cents and a quarter worth $374 million can sometimes be invisible to the naked eye and yet world-changing to the person who knows where and how to look. Thank you for staying with us today on Koinexa Vault. Thank you for bringing your curiosity and your passion and your willingness to look at the world of coins with fresh eyes. Today we took you from 356 million to 366 million to 374 million. 3 Washington quarters, 3 extraordinary stories, 3 reminders that the world is full of hidden fortunes waiting for the right person to find them. Check your quarters. Share this video with someone who collects coins. Leave a comment below telling us which of today's coins you found most extraordinary. Like this video if it opened your eyes to something you never knew before. And subscribe to Koinexa Vault, because this is just the beginning. And the next video we have in store for you is going to take everything you learned today and push it even further into the territory of the truly unbelievable. We will see you there.